ninth century England, Saint Swithun lived without public notice, serving quietly as bishop in Winchester, where daily prayer, pastoral care, and humility shaped his reputation. Long before weather or wonder became attached to his name, and long before the church imagined his memory reaching beyond stone walls, Saint Swithun avoided grandeur, preferring simple routines within the cathedral grounds of Winchester, where his guidance emphasized patience and mercy, practiced during years when Anglo-Saxon England faced instability, shifting rulers, and uncertain seasons that pressed communities to rely on faith rather than prediction. During his lifetime, no accounts linked Saint Swithun to signs in the sky, only to steady devotion and careful leadership, qualities remembered quietly after his death around 862, when he was laid to rest outside the church, exposed deliberately to rain, wind, and passing feet. That burial choice, unusual even for 9th century England, reflected Saint Swithun's wish for humility, allowing weather to pass freely over his grave, a silent acceptance of nature's rhythms, unnoticed at first by monks who continued daily prayers within Winchester's stone boundaries. Years later, as the church in Winchester planned to move his remains indoors, memory rather than expectation guided the decision, shaped by growing respect for Saint Swithun's life. Not by any forecast, omen, or belief that the skies themselves would respond to human intention. The preparations unfolded calmly, within familiar cloisters and pathways, as monks marked the calendar in midsummer, a season already known in England for unpredictable rain, without any recorded concern that the act of opening a grave might intersect with forces beyond ordinary experience. When the first days of work approached, the atmosphere remained practical, grounded in routine, with prayers spoken as habit rather than appeal. While clouds gathered above Winchester, unnoticed as meaningful, part of the same weather cycles that shaped farming, travel, and daily monastic life. Saint Swithun's name circulated gently among the clergy, spoken with respect, but not urgency, as the ground around his resting place softened with rain, a condition accepted without interpretation, still framed as coincidence rather than sign within the measured mindset of the early medieval church. As rainfall continued, the monks did not yet pause their plans, nor did they attribute delay to Saint Swithun, remaining focused on discipline and order, unaware that these ordinary moments, set in 9th century Winchester, would later be remembered with unexpected significance. At this stage, nothing distinguished the days beyond persistence of rain and prayer. Yet the convergence of Saint Swithun's memory, the exposed grave, and England's unsettled skies quietly formed a threshold where routine devotion stood on the edge of something not yet named. As the planned translation of Saint Swithun's remains began in Winchester, a steady rain settled over the city, day after day, during a midsummer period of 9th century England, soaking paths and cloisters alike, slowing work without panic, yet quietly testing the monks' resolve. The rainfall did not arrive violently, but persistently, turning ordinary movement into effort, as if time itself had thickened. While prayers continued inside the cathedral, spoken calmly, without demand. Within a community accustomed to England's changeable weather and patient waiting. Records later noted that the rain extended beyond custom, lasting through consecutive days, enough to halt progress at the grave, creating a pause that felt unusual, though not yet interpreted, as Saint Swithun's name remained associated with humility, not intervention or control. As work stalled, the monks gathered within the Winchester church, not to argue cause but to pray for clarity, their words measured and restrained, shaped by trust rather than urgency. While rain continued to fall outside, unbroken, quiet, and without sudden shift. These prayers were not framed as commands to heaven, but as acknowledgement, offered within stone walls familiar with centuries of petition, as the exposed grave remained untouched. Rainwater tracing the ground above Saint Swithun, echoing his earlier wish for simplicity and openness. According to early tradition, the turning point came without spectacle, when prayer concluded and the rain ceased. Not gradually, but decisively, leaving clear air over Winchester. A change observed quietly, without announcement, astonishment, or immediate declaration of meaning. The sudden stillness of the sky altered the moment, allowing work to resume, yet the monks proceeded carefully, attentive to order, as if aware that interruption itself had shaped the event, linking Saint Swithun's memory to restraint rather than dramatic display. No thunder marked the change. No voice explained it. Only dry ground and open light remained, enough to complete the translation as England's unsettled summer returned to ordinary rhythm, leaving behind an experience recorded later as coincidence shaped by prayer. In the days that followed, conversation remained subdued, yet remembrance settled into monastic memory, where Saint Swithun's name began to surface alongside the weather. Not as power asserted, but as presence noticed through timing and calm resolution. What endured from this moment was not proof, but pattern. Rain that delayed, prayer that waited, and a clearing that arrived without explanation, forming the quiet center of a story preserved in Winchester, linking Saint Swithun's humility with the sky above. In the years following the event in 9th century Winchester, Saint Swithun's name remained linked not to command over nature, but to timing remembered, as clergy recalled rain and clearing as part of church memory, preserved without urgency or insistence. The account traveled gradually beyond Winchester, carried through monastic networks across England, where it settled into seasonal awareness, shaping how Saint Swithun was recalled, not as a forecaster, but as a figure associated with patient attention to unfolding days. By later centuries, the tradition condensed into a simple rhythm, connecting Saint Swithun's feast day in mid-July with expectations of rain or sun, a cultural memory that echoed earlier restraint, avoiding claims of control while acknowledging the persistence of the story. Within church reflection, the meaning remained understated, framed as witness rather than mechanism, allowing believers to hold the event gently, aware that weather followed its course, while Saint Swithun's memory offered orientation rather than certainty or predictive promise. This balance preserved dignity, preventing the story from becoming spectacle, as England's skies continued their changeable patterns, reminding listeners that the original moment in Winchester was marked by waiting, prayer, and response, not formula or repeated expectation. Over time, the association with rain and sun entered wider folklore, yet church tradition maintained distance, presenting Saint Swithun as a figure of humility, whose legacy rested in faithful presence rather than claims that heaven could be scheduled or summoned. What endured was a posture shaped by that summer long ago, where interruption became meaningful through restraint, encouraging later generations to recognize that holiness often appears through alignment with time, place, and patience, rather than dramatic alteration of events. In this way, Saint Swithun's memory remained consistent with his life, grounded in quiet service and acceptance, allowing the weather-linked story to function as reflection, not instruction, held within the Church's broader understanding of witness and trust. Even today, references to Saint Swithun surface each July, recalling England's old rhythm of rain and clearing, not as proof offered, but as a shared remembrance that keeps attention on the humility of response rather than explanation demanded. The story closes without resolution imposed, leaving Saint Swithun standing gently within church memory, between rain and sunlight, where faith does not require control, only attentiveness, and where meaning emerges through time rather than force or certainty.